Hi, this is Jim from Trek World, and today we're going to take a look at Inside Star Trek by Herb Solow and Robert Justman.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Remember that in all of these videos, there's going to be a link in the description that you can go to where you will actually be taken to an affiliate link on Amazon showing you the availability of the books that I've been discussing.
Hi, this is Jim from Trek World, and today we're going to take a look at Inside Star Trek by Herb Solow and Robert Justman. Published in 1996 by Pocket Books, Inside Star Trek, The Real Story, is a dual memoir written by Herb Solow and Robert Justman, two of the most pivotal figures in Star Trek's early days, names that don't nearly get enough spotlight compared to the cast or Gene Roddenberry himself. You see, Solow was the executive at Desilu Studios who first championed Star Trek and oversaw its development, and Justman was one of the original producers of Star Trek and later played a massive role in launching Star Trek The Next Generation. This book is not another fan-driven oral history or puff piece retrospective. It's raw, first-hand production logs from two men who lived through the chaos of creating a sci-fi empire and came out with their sanities barely intact. So why does the book matter to us today? Well, you got to remember that when this book dropped in 1996, the same year, by the way, that Star Trek First Contact hit theaters and Voyager was about halfway through her run, fans were deep into franchise worship. Roddenberry had become somewhat of a messianic figure, and this book rattled that cage very hard. You see, Solow and Justman were interested in preserving myths. They were interested in telling the truth as they saw it after decades of silence. The result? A book that reads like a post-mortem wrapped in a love letter, a mixture of brutal honesty, warm admiration, and bittersweet hindsight. There were basically four big reveals that came out of the book that had fandom buzzing in the 1990s, and in some cases really ticked off in the 1990s. Number one, of course, was Roddenberry, Myth versus Reality. Solow and Justman respected Roddenberry's creative vision, but they weren't afraid to show his flaws, especially as a manager, businessman, and storyteller. According to this book, Roddenberry frequently rewrote credit and minimized others' contributions. He had ongoing battles with writers and lied to the studio repeatedly about budgets and production. He wasn't the sole creator of many of the ideas that fans associated with him. Others, like Justman, Kuhn, and even D.C. Fontana, played huge roles that had never been disclosed before. This was probably one of the very first books ever written that challenged the notion that Gene Roddenberry was the one-man visionary that he had been portrayed to be. Now, the second big reveal is for the very first time, the very last time, and the only time in all Star Trek history, we have candid discussions about Lucille Ball as the unsung hero of Star Trek. Herb Solow worked for Lucille Ball at Desilu before Star Trek, and he continued to work well after for Paramount. So Herb had a long-time relationship with Lucille Ball, and quite frankly, everything that happened on Star Trek moved through him to her. Solow gives Lucille Ball, head of Desilu Productions at the time, major credit for greenlighting and backing Star Trek when no one else believed in it. Lucy didn't understand the show at all, but she believed in the people behind it. She approved the most expensive TV pilot in television history, that of course being The Cage. When NBC rejected that, she backed an unprecedented second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. There's the magic, guys. Not that they asked for a second pilot, because although Roddenberry would like us to believe that they never did, it happened all the time. The Dick Van Dyke Show had actually just recently gone through the same thing. But Lucy agreed to pay for the second pilot, even though the first pilot had been turned down. She protected Star Trek from internal studio politics, and for doing so wasn't all that noble, but she desperately needed properties that Desilu owned. They needed to get out of the studio rental business. Star Trek was a gamble. Without Lucy, no Star Trek.
If you have any videos, photos, or documents that you would like to donate to us, please feel free to send them to jim@trek-world.com or submit them via the web at submit.trek-world.com.
The third thing was basically the NBC and studio drama. Now, we knew a little bit about this because it had leaked out from the studio side. But of course, a lot of people pictured the studio as being like the evil empire in Star Wars, that, hey, the resistance was Roddenberry and the network represented the empire. Wasn't quite that way. Forget the myth about NBC being the enemy. According to this book, NBC wanted Star Trek to work and was frustrated by Roddenberry's financial and scheduling games. Solo and Justman explain how close the series came to cancellation multiple times due to behind-the-scenes chaos, not fan apathy. And then finally, the book goes into the creative friction, which basically consumed Star Trek from the inside out. They deep dive into a clash of personalities that is amazing. Roddenberry, Justman, Gene Kuhn, even the individual members of the cast. It was a daily grind of rewriting scripts, navigating egos, and battling exhaustion. There's even discussion about how Leonard Nimoy's rising popularity created contract tensions, and how Shatner wasn't always thrilled about it. If the making of Star Trek is the idealized genesis of Trek's birth, then inside Star Trek is the exodus, wandering through the desert of stress, politics, and half-won victories. Solo writes like a network exec is expected to, sharp, detailed focus, and not prone to romanticism. Justin, however, brings warmth, humor, and personal anecdotes that breathe life into the narrative. It's not a hit job. It's a human story with admiration and criticism in balance. This book split fandom in 1996, but it also marked a turning point in Trek literacy. In realizing that Star Trek was not just born in utopian inspiration, but forged out of creative tension, business gambles, and stubborn perseverance. For Trek World fans who love raw production documents, dusty memos, and those who obsess over who really wrote a specific scene in The City on the Edge of Forever, this book is your holy grail. It's not about tearing down heroes. It's about reclaiming the story and honoring the dozens of created forces who brought the dream to life. And I just wanted to thank you so much for visiting my channel to watch one of my videos. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you do enjoy this video, I would personally be very grateful if you might please consider subscribing to the channel. Why, you might ask? Well, viewer subscriptions help to ensure that I am able to continue providing more Trek World content like the video you just watched.